Natalie Nixon. Move, think, rest. Redefining productivity and our relationship with time. The way most of us think about productivity is stuck in overdrive, doing more, faster, and squeezing every minute for maximum output. But if you've ever noticed your best ideas popping up when you're on a walk, staring out the window, or soaking in a warm bath, you know there's a better way. Productivity isn't just about getting things done, it's about creating the conditions where creativity, focus, and energy can flourish. The challenge is that modern work often pulls us in every direction. Endless notifications, back-to-back meetings, and the pressure to always be on leave little room for conscious movement, intentional reflection, or genuine rejuvenation. Burnout has become all too common, and hybrid work has blurred the lines between home and office. The old productivity models no longer deliver what humans actually need to thrive. This is where a more human-centered approach comes in. By intentionally weaving movement, thought, and rest into our days, we can lay the foundations for more sustainable energy, sharper thinking, and inspired ideas. Such practices aren't luxuries. They're the tools that allow us to work smarter, not just harder, and to enjoy the process along the way. In this blink, you'll learn why redefining productivity matters, how movement can unlock creativity, why deep thinking fuels insight, and how rest restores energy and focus. Together, these elements form a robust framework in which work can become invigorating, meaningful, and genuinely fulfilling. Ready to reimagine productivity? Let's dive in. We need to talk about productivity. For most of us, productivity has been defined by speed and volume, how much we can do and how quickly we can do it. But if you think back to the moments when your best ideas arrived, chances are they didn't happen while you were frantically ticking off tasks. They likely surfaced when you stepped away from your work, playing with your dog in the garden, doodling on a napkin while waiting for a friend, or perhaps while mindlessly folding laundry. Those pauses didn't look productive in the traditional sense, but they gave your brain the freedom and opportunity to connect dots, percolate ideas, and spark insights. Productivity, then, isn't just about doing more, it's about creating the conditions where we can do our best thinking and ultimately flourish. This reframing is especially important today. Much of the work that once required human attention is now handled by machines. AI, automation, and robotics increasingly excel at repetition and precision, which frees us up to lean into what's uniquely human: creativity, imagination, and meaning. The organizations that encourage these qualities will be the ones to consistently attract top-tier talent and drive industry innovation. However, that requires shifting away from outdated productivity models that prize busyness above all else. But let's be honest, the current approach is breaking people down, not raising them up. Burnout is everywhere. Technology keeps us tethered to work long after hours. Hybrid schedules blur the line between home and office. If we cling to operating in this way, the trend will only continue. What's needed is a fresh framework, one that builds movement, thought, and rest, or MTR, into the daily rhythm of work. One that doesn't position MTR as an indulgence, but as the fuel that sustains energy and unlocks divergent ways of thinking. Shifting towards such a model doesn't mean discarding productivity altogether. It means broadening our definition of meaningful work to include curiosity, well-being, and sustainability. We can think of this model like cultivating a garden. Progress takes time, patience, and attention. We start small, testing and trialing, inviting feedback from others, and letting the practices take root naturally. Over time, the results compound: better quality work, happier and healthier teams, a more innovative organization. When we embed movement, thought, and rest into how we work, productivity stops being a grind and becomes a pathway to flourishing. The point is no longer just to produce more, it's to create the conditions where people thrive, where contribution aligns with fulfillment, and where work feels energizing rather than depleting. That's the real promise of reimagined productivity, and MTR is our ticket there. Move. If flourishing is the true goal of productivity, then movement is its most vital building block. Our bodies and minds are far more connected than we often acknowledge, and when we allow ourselves to move, even in the smallest of ways, we can tap into a deeper layer of clarity and creativity. You may have experienced it yourself, a solution that appears while at the playground with your kids, or a flash of inspiration while stretching out after a long day. Movement doesn't take away from the work, it adds. The beauty of movement is its simplicity. It doesn't require registering for a marathon or signing up for a pricey gym membership. A walk around the block, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or nodding along to music between calls can all create subtle shifts that reset our focus. These actions aren't about adding yet another task to our to-do lists. They're about reclaiming small, intentional moments to bring the body back online, which, in turn, sharpens our mental acuity and makes space for fresh insights. Importantly, movement belongs to everyone. No matter your level of mobility or physical ability, there are ways to integrate it into daily life. That might mean choosing a form of motion that feels both accessible and enjoyable, like chair yoga or a water-based activity that reconnects you with your body. We don't need to go all out. We just need to reintroduce some physicality into the rhythms of our day. A helpful way to start is through reflection. Ask yourself, how much movement already happens during my day? Where do I feel stuck for too long, and where could I invite motion in? Mapping out your environment on paper or your device can reveal overlooked opportunities, such as a long hallway perfect for quick calls or a park nearby for midday breaks. By making those adjustments gradually, movement can quickly become part of your routine. Organizations have a role to play too. Workplace culture and design send powerful signals about whether movement is encouraged or frowned upon. If the environment subtly discourages getting up, people will default to staying seated. But when leaders normalize walking meetings, offer adjustable desks, or encourage breaks, movement is more likely to become a shared practice rather than a private indulgence. If you go a step further and quantify the effects of such changes, you may find teams collaborate more effectively, creativity flows more freely, and the overall work environment feels more dynamic. When movement is woven into both individual habits and organizational culture, work feels less static and more alive. It's not about doing more for the sake of it. It's about prioritizing energy, clarity, and connection the same way we would a traditional KPI. Through the lens of flourishing, movement provides the pulse that keeps ideas in motion. Think. While movement awakens the body, it's thought that truly sharpens the mind. In today's culture of endless notifications and back-to-back meetings, though, space for genuine reflection can often be the first thing to go. We're conditioned to equate visible activity with value, yet some of the most important breakthroughs emerge only when we step away, slow down, and let our minds wander. Reflection isn't wasted time. It's the soil where insights bud and bloom. Deep thinking thrives in stillness. For some, that might look like staring out the window. For others, that might look like closing the eyes for a few conscious breaths. Neuroscience shows that the brain can make surprising connections when it's not under immediate pressure to perform. These pauses allow us to imagine alternatives and hone the accuracy of our decisions. Just as movement prepares the body, intentional thought prepares the mind to engage more fully when it's time to collaborate and act. One way to approach this is through inside-out work. This means turning inward first, journaling, sketching, or simply sitting with an idea, before turning outward into group or team conversations. When we diverge in solitude and then converge with others, collaboration can become more considered and grounded. Instead of reactive chatter, we bring clarity, perspective, and substance to the table. The spaces around us matter too. Environments designed with calming aesthetics or quiet corners send a clear signal that thinking is valued alongside doing. These don't need to be elaborate overhauls. Even small tweaks like creating device-free nooks or places for outdoor breaks can help. The goal is to normalize reflection as part of the rhythm of work, not treat it as an afterthought squeezed into the margins. Organizational cultures that reward only visible busyness miss out on the upside of deep thought. By encouraging reflective practices and designing workspaces that support both focus and conversation, they help their employees think more effectively and, ultimately, efficiently. Simple practices make a big difference on an individual level too. Blocking out 15 minutes to doodle or simply let your mind drift can create the conditions for unexpected insights. Paying attention to when and where you naturally do your best thinking, early mornings, long walks, or while cooking dinner, for example, can further aid you in protecting these conditions. When thinking is given its rightful place, work stops being quite so frenetic and reactive and starts becoming more sustainable and intentional. Ideas gain depth, collaboration gains meaning, and individuals feel more connected to their own sense of purpose. In the context of flourishing, reflection is the pause that transforms activity into insight. Rest. After movement energizes the body and reflection deepens the mind, rest offers the reset that makes both sustainable. Yet in many workplaces, rest is still treated as a guilty indulgence or a perk to be earned. However, the reality is that without time to genuinely restore, well-being erodes, creativity dies, and productivity stalls out. Rest is not the absence of effort, it's the foundation from which our efforts matter. We can think of rest as doing less, better. It's the deliberate choice to create space for recovery so that when we return, we're more resilient, sharper, and more capable of taking imaginative leaps. That might mean sleep, but it can also mean meditation, reading, or even gardening. Just as athletes train by alternating exertion with recovery, we all thrive when we cycle between activity and replenishment. The first step is noticing what restoration actually looks like for you. Do you feel most recharged after solitude, time with loved ones, or engaging in a creative hobby? Reflecting on these moments helps you build a personal recovery toolkit tailored to your individual needs and inclinations. A calming ritual before bed, a mid-afternoon screen break, or a few deep breaths between meetings can all serve as anchors, all under 10 minutes too. When rest becomes an active practice, rather than something squeezed into leftovers, assuming there are any, we enhance both performance and well-being. Organizations have an equally critical role to play. Too often, workplace culture sends subtle signals that rest is weakness, that the ideal employee is always available, always online. Leaders who model healthier, more human-centered boundaries flip that script, taking breaks throughout the day, logging off at a reasonable hour, and actually using annual vacation time sets the tone that rejuvenation is prioritized, not penalized. Structural supports like flexible schedules, quiet zones, or designated mental health days send the same message at scale. Energy and humanity matter here. Again, the return on investment here is very real. Teams that respect cycles of rest and recovery collaborate more effectively, approach problems more creatively, and maintain more energy over the long term. Rather than sprinting until they collapse, they work at a steady, healthy pace that fosters greater innovation, morale, and, yes, output. Rest, then, is anything but an indulgence or something to be earned. It's one of the most human needs and one of the most powerful levers for meaningful, sustainable success. By weaving it into daily life and organizational culture, we can further cultivate the conditions in which people can truly thrive. Such is the promise and power of MTR. In this Blink to Move, Think, Rest by Natalie Nixon, you've learned that true productivity isn't about doing more in less time. It's about creating the conditions where your best ideas, focus, and energy can flourish. When you intentionally weave movement, thought, and rest into your day, you open space for creativity and clarity to emerge naturally. These practices aren't indulgences or distractions. They're the secret ingredients that make work feel energizing instead of draining. Stepping away to stretch, daydream, or simply take a few deep breaths doesn't slow you down. It fuels sharper thinking, better decisions, and more inspired solutions. Honoring your humanity through movement, thought, and rest unlocks your most creative, effective, and fulfilled self. And the ripple effect is powerful. When individuals thrive, teams and organizations thrive too. Work stops being just an environment to churn through tasks or churn out widgets and becomes a place where growth, insight, and joy are woven into the new definition of what it means to be productive. Okay, that's it for this Blink. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please take the time to leave us a rating. We always appreciate your feedback. See you in the next Blink.